In Paraguay, a mother has sold her daughter for $20, a $20 worth of cocaine. That poor 3-year-old daughter was found dead in an abandoned house 2 days later. In today's episode, we will explore two of the most potent and devastating drugs known to humanity, heroin and cocaine. These substances, often referred as the powerhouses of addiction, they have a very profound effect on the brain and on society. Let's uncover the work, why they are so addictive, and what are the challenges they present in the fight against addiction. Heroin is derived from morphine. Morphine is used as a painkiller and a very strong painkillers. Extracted from the opium poppy, has been a scourge for centuries. Commonly injected, snorted, or smoked, heroin delivers its effect swiftly and intensely. But what exactly happens in the brain when someone uses heroin? So, always going back to the neurotransmitters and the synapses, heroin primarily targets the brain opioids receptors. These receptors are integral to regulation of pain, reward, and addictive behavior. So that's why a lot of people that use morphine as a pain reliever or painkillers finish by becoming addict. These receptors primarily affect nociception, but also stress, temperature, respiration, endocrine activity, gastrointestinal activity, memory, mood, and also motivation. When heroin binds to these receptors, it mimics the action of the natural neurotransmitters, flooding the brain with pleasurable sensation. This intense euphoria is what makes heroin so alluring and unfortunately so addictive. But the story doesn't end there. Heroin interaction with the opioid receptors also leads to the inhibition of another type of neurons which are called the GABAergic neurons. GABA neurons are inhibitory or inhibition neurons. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So usually when we release the neurotransmitters in the synapses and they bind to the receptor in the other neurons, they will start an activation or the message will be transmitted. GABA neurons do something else. Once they bind to the receptor, they will block the message. So this cell, the message will stop here and this cell will not be activated. So the heroin will block this GABAergic neurons, so there will be no inhibition. And again, there will be a surge of dopamine, thereby reinforcing learning, desire to use the drug and craving the drug and having to learn all those cues that will be leading to the heroin use later. So it works on two levels. It activates itself and also it prevents the system or the blocking neurons or the inhibition neurons from working and reducing the levels of dopamine. On the other side of the addiction spectrum, we have the cocaine, a powerful stimulant derived from coca leaves, whether snorted, smoked, or cracked cocaine or injected cocaine. Effects on the brain is both immediate and intense, even though short term. It was used before as a normal medicine for cough. It was used in some drinks, do the names, but now it's legally a drug of abuse or a psychoactive drug. How cocaine hijacks the brain? Cocaine works by blocking dopamine transporter, which are responsible for reabsorbing the dopamine back into the neurons after they were released. Back to the synapses, there is a message. Dopamine is released inside the synapses, bound to the next cell or the next neuron, and the message starts again. There is then, once they are released, this dopamine, they will be returned to the cell by a process called reuptake. Cocaine will block the reuptake of dopamine. So all those dopamine released cannot go back to the cell. So by preventing dopamine reuptake, cocaine causes an intense accumulation of this neurotransmitter or this dopamine inside the synapses, resulting in an overwhelming rush of pleasure and euphoria. Initially, cocaine produced short-term effects like increased energy, heightened awareness, and intense euphoria. But remember, all these effects come with a cost. After this high wears off, the brain is left with depleted dopamine levels, leading to a crash that involves fatigue, depression, and also intense craving. Over time, repeated cocaine use damages the brain reward system. The brain adapts to reducing its natural production of dopamine because of the blockage of the reuptake, so he had enough, making it harder to experience the other pleasures from everyday activity, and then leads to a cycle where individual is craving that drug or that rush of dopamine just to feel normal. When we compare heroin and cocaine, both exhibit high affinity. What we mean by affinity, every neurotransmitter has its own receptor that it binds to it. Imagine a circle, bind into a circle shape. Imagine a triangle, bind into a triangle shape. Cocaine and heroin have a high affinity, basically the same shape and the same effect to this receptor. So once they bind, they give a lot of effects. Okay, so that's why they are highly addictive. Heroin for opioid receptors and cocaine for dopamine transporters. This high affinity will result in the drug binding tightly and effectively, producing potent and immediate effect that contribute to their high addiction potential. Heroin effects can last between 3 to 5 hours, providing prolonged period of euphoria and also pain relief. In contrast, cocaine's effects are short-lived. They typically last in between 30 minutes to 1 hour. This briefly often leads user to engage in a binge pattern, taking repeated doses to sustain the desired high, which significantly heightens the risk of developing dependence. So breaking free from heroin and cocaine addiction is a very hard journey, but it's unsurmountable. Treatment often involves a combination of medication-assisted treatment in the case of heroin and behavioral therapies. Cocaine addiction, while lacking specific pharmacological treatments, benefits significantly from the behavioral interventions such as cognitive behavioral therapy and contingency management. This will help modify the rewarding effect of a drug use and develop healthier coping mechanisms. So to know that in Vietnam War, the US military's use of heroin has reached 60%, which creates an alert in the USA. But what the scientists have discovered is only 5% of those soldiers have returned to their addiction. Once they change the environment and they are back with family and solid support of friends, they stop the heroin use. So everybody has hope. A lot of celebrities also has used cocaine for a long time, and then after the rehab, they get rid of that cocaine use. But remember, you're not that rich. If you keep using cocaine or using these drugs, those bills of the rehab facilities will be a queue for another use. So stay away and be safe. Life has a lot of joy in it. Just compound it and don't take that fake high. And also that mistaken word, you can use it. See you in the next episode.